Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Expressions Podcast. We have a wonderful, wonderful guest for you today. A very, very funny man, stand-up comedian, host of the Wicked Funny Podcast. Mr. Brian Beaudoin is joining us today. Before we get to Brian, I want to welcome in my fellow co-hosts, Mr. Mark Finders, Brian Weiss, and Aurora Robinson. Mark, I botched your name. I don't know if you caught that. I called you Mark Finders.
That's all right. It's not the first time. Won't be the last.
There you go. So let's do a quick round table. How's everybody feeling? Mark, starting with you. How you feeling this week? What's been going on?
It's been a great week so far. Had a good weekend. I get Sundays off, and it was a great day. And just looking forward to the rest of the week. It's going to be a good
There
one.
you go. Brian, how about yourself? Brian Weiss, because again, guys, we're going to be very confused today. We've got two Brians and a Ryan, so buckle up.
And they're all spelled differently, which is okay with me. But yeah, I'm doing great today. I taught the McMichael Art Gallery photography camp. It started today. So the spring break photo camp, which is going to be a lot of fun. 9 kids between 9 and 15 years old learning photography virtually, which is really a new thing for me. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Awesome. And Aurora, how about yourself? What have you been up to this week?
I've been off work since actually Thursday. So I've had 4 days off, so a little bit of a vacation. I haven't had a vacation in a very long time, so
We missed you, by the way.
Vacation or is this a COVID vacation?
I've missed you guys too, but I've also much needed relaxation time and watching The Walking Dead.
And I was going to say, is this a legitimate vacation or is this a COVID vacation?
This is just me being at home, enjoying
Nice.
some cider, doing some laundry. That
Awesome.
kind of vacation.
So now let's get to the man of the hour. Of course, I mentioned at the start of the broadcast here, he is a stand-up comedian, host of the Wicked Funny Podcast. I got a chance to meet him last year on the Chris Jericho cruise, Mr. Brian Beaudoin. Brian, thank you so much for joining us. Did I get the last name right, by the way? I took kind of a gamble there.
You really, really did.
Nice. All right.
I'm really impressed with that. Nobody ever says my last name correctly.
I'm not going to lie to you. I cheated. I went to YouTube.
That's fine.
Did some research, but I was like, hopefully if this guy got it right, then I will too.
Don't ever do. You should have just keep selling it. Just keep selling it. Just be
There
like,
you
I know
go.
how to say your name.
Yeah, I'm the beast.
Yeah.
So before we get into everything, I want to ask you, how are you holding up? Because I know the last year it goes without saying, it's been rocky for everybody. How are you doing right now, man, with the current state of everything?
Doing a lot better now. Now that things are starting to open up a little bit more and people are a little more willing to come out to shows, it's a little better, but it's definitely not, hey, we're doing shows every weekend, we're traveling. It's definitely not the same. It's a lot of, it was a lot of Zoom shows over the year. A lot of podcasting over the year. It's a lot of virtual stuff. Were
you big into the podcasting prior to COVID? Like, was it something that you did as much as you're doing now?
I mean, I guess I'm not lazy, but I don't have, I never had the idea of doing a podcast. People came to me and they're like, you should have a podcast. And then my business partner was like, let's just do a podcast. All you have to do is show up and talk. And I'm like, well, I can do that. So that's it. But now I'm more active in it. I couldn't tell you how to post an episode, but we got a regular episode of the Wicked Funny Podcast, and we have a Patreon episode that we do every week. And then Craig Gass and myself are going to be coming out with a podcast called Your Music Sucks, where we just break down each other's music. We're into just complete opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to music.
I have seen that. You've been posting these on Facebook lately, these musical comparisons. You guys will send each other some songs to check out. It's something that you're into that you'll show to him. And yeah, you're right, opposite ends of the spectrum. I've never seen two close buddies with quite different tastes in music like that.
Yeah, and it gets so awkward when we're driving, man. You know what it's like driving hours with a person and you want to hear a song, but you got to figure out a creative way to play it, Yeah. It's really bad. I don't like it, but we get through. There
we go. So let's kind of talk about your career as a stand-up comedian, because to me, that's one of the most wonderful careers you could have. It's just nothing but joy. You're literally bringing joy to people's life. You're making people happy. You're making people laugh. How important is that to you in your career? Is that kind of the reason you got into it? What brought you into comedy?
I always had like this sixth sense when it comes to making people laugh. Like it was just, I don't know, like it's just, I can't explain it. It's just something I was always good at. And comedy, stand-up was just something I was always drawn to at a really young age. Like we're talking 5th, 6th grade. I would stay home from school sick. My mom would take me to rent movies, and I wouldn't get movies. I would get stand-up. I would get comic relief. I would get Eddie Murphy stuff. I would get Richard Pryor. And then I would just literally watch stand-up comedy and wrestling like all day. That's all I would watch. And then the next day I would go to school and just repeat the bits that I heard. So at a really young age, I was teaching myself timing. I was teaching myself how to tell a joke. And that carried up to high school. That's when I started actually getting on stage. It was my senior year in high school. I was like 18, 19. And that's when
did you know when you were renting these that you wanted to be a stand-up, or were you almost self-consciously absorbing this information that by high school you went, hang on, I actually know how to do this to a degree?
Yeah, no, I just enjoyed it, and it just, I don't know, like it just, I guess you could say I grew up being like when I was in 6th grade. I remember somebody's like, "What do you want to do?" It was a project. Like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I remember like it was like a cop or a comedian. And I ended up being a cop because my buddy was a cop and we thought it'd be cool if we were partners. And then we didn't realize how silly that would have been like if we actually pursued it. And so yeah, it was down between a cop and a comedian in 6th grade. So that's when I wanted to start doing it.
That's crazy. And I love that you have that being able to pull that memory out, like just to be able to flick back and go, yeah, it was either a cop or a comedian. That was the moment where I went, you know what? I know what I want to do. I certainly don't want to, uphold the law. Don't want to do that.
And then I remember, when Seinfeld was big. I don't know, like the first couple years Seinfeld was out, and it was a show about a guy that did comedy, like a guy that did stand up. And I really remember a conversation I had with my buddy James and my mom. And I'm like, I'm going to be a comedian. I'm like, Seinfeld does it. I can do it. And they're like, yeah, but he doesn't make a lot of money. Like he even has side jobs on the show. And I'm like, I can do it. I can. And so so whatever year Seinfeld came out too, like it's been a while since I wanted to do it. Yeah. It's been ingrained in me, I guess.
That's awesome, man. So kind of talk to us about your early days in stand-up then. What was it like? You said you first took the stage in high school, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And was that obviously just at your school, or did you actually go to clubs?
I would go to open mics. Mics. And I didn't know that you couldn't do other people's material. So I was at open mics literally doing Eddie Murphy Delirious, which is arguably the most iconic stand-up set of all time.
You ain't fooling anybody with that.
Oh yeah, man. No, and I was doing it, I was owning it, and I'm like, yeah, and goody goo goo, and I'm doing the fucking ice cream thing. Like I'm doing it all, man. Like I'm doing the entire Delirious set. And it started out where I would do like because you only get like 5 minutes. I would do 5 minutes of Delirious, and then like the next time I went up, I would do the next 5 minutes of Delirious.
Oh, jeez.
Next 5 minutes of Delirious. So I would just do it all in 5-minute chunks. And like the guy that booked me was just oblivious. Either he was oblivious and didn't know I was doing other people's material, or he just didn't care. I think he was just oblivious to it because he kept saying, like, you bring new stuff every time. You're really good. And I'm like, yeah, man, I'm really great, man. That whole thing about your aunt being Puerto Rican and having a mustache is great. I'm like, yeah, goony goo goo.
What was the crowd reaction to you just ripping off Eddie Murphy?
They didn't care. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. It was just like, oh, this guy's funny. And yeah. So but nobody told me I couldn't do that. So like nobody told me it was frowned upon. And the guy that would book me for years, like 2-3 years, he would just keep booking me because I would also bring people to the show. And so I wasn't getting booked anywhere else. And it got frustrating, and I'm just like going out, and it became more like a party than actual stand-up. And it like drinking became the priority, and doing drugs was the priority, and stand-up became second. So I ended up quitting in 2004. for about 3 years. So I quit, and then I started back up again in 2007.
Okay, and you've been going strong since 2007.
Yeah. So like I have like 2 start dates, 99 and 07. Yeah, I haven't stopped since 07.
That's awesome.
At what point during your sort of career in the beginning did you realize that it was wrong to be doing Eddie Murphy's show, basically, and then start bringing in your own material?
It was actually when it was towards the later end of that first chunk where somebody was just like, just stop doing Eddie Murphy stuff. And I owned it. I'm like, yeah, but it's funny. It's funny. It works. And like, you got to write your own jokes. And I had like some of my own jokes. But that was really discouraging. Like to go from crushing every night to like, oh man, now I have to write an entire set. Like, fuck that. And I walked away.
Yeah.
So it was like the tail end of 04 when somebody finally said something to me and I smartened up and that's that. Now I still do some of the old jokes that I did from back then, from 99.
But your jokes, though.
Yeah.
I'm curious because you had mentioned that you took that 3-year hiatus from stand-up comedy simply because it was becoming more of a party atmosphere to you. As somebody who relates to that, I've gone through that similar thing myself. What kind of is the difference now being back? Because you've been in comedy again for over a decade since your return. What's the difference now compared to what it was becoming towards the tail end of 2003, 2004?
Well, when I came back, it was more. I was grown up a little bit. I grew up a little bit, and it was like, all right, so this is what I want to do, and if I'm going to do it, I got to take it serious. And I just started taking it serious, and after 2 months, I got this tattoo. Right? I can't turn my wrist that much, but it's just it's a Japanese thing that just says laugh. It's the Chinese symbol for a laugh, or Japan. I don't know what. It's an Asian writing. I hope it means laugh. And it's funny. I was doing this web series in Pittsburgh one time, and the waitress, we were having like sushi, and the waitress comes over to the table. She goes, your tattoo. I like your tattoo. I'm like, oh, thank you very much. She goes, what does it say? And I'm like, it says laugh. She goes, yeah, it says laugh. And then I don't know what it says. I don't know what it says. But
and she could easily be messing with you. That's a 50-50. Oh, I hate
that. Dude, to this day I don't know.
Now, to be fair, we could just Google and solve this
the Google
debate.
Translate thing.
Yeah,
No, leave the air of mystery. I like it.
We could, but I'm just gonna trust that picture I saw at Target that said "Live, Laugh, Love" in Chinese, and I'm gonna use Target's reference. Target did the work, and so now it's on me forever.
It could really just say "put logo here," right?
Yeah, exactly. Put logo here. Yeah, okay. Insert. It can say anything.
Yeah. Insert. Oh, good God.
Yeah. But yeah, I got it. I got the tattoo. That way, I know that it would make me not quit. And like even if I wanted to quit, I look down and be like, oh, I got the stupid tattoo. I can't quit. and so that's really what drove me, was getting a tattoo. And
well, it's funny too that you're able to look down at like what you're saying is just a stupid little tattoo, but again, it's so impactful and so meaningful that it's what's helping you say, look, I don't want to use comedy as this party atmosphere anymore. I want to use comedy as something that betters me and other people's lives. So that to me is that's huge, man. That's super huge. Even for a small little tattoo that might not mean much to anybody else.
You guys are so nice. You really are.
We're such Canadian.
Canadian. Yeah, we are Canadian. It's unfortunately comes with the territory.
So nice. So nice. Even really before the episode, you guys were being so nice to each other. You got to see us before we do the Wicked Funny podcast. We're yelling at each other. Katie's calling me stupid. My co-host calls me stupid. It says we're not doing that bit. And she yells demands. And Frank, my other co-host, is an idiot. And it's just nice to hear people be nice to each other.
Oh,
There's
well,
a reason.
That.
Okay, I just want to say quickly. I know, Mark, you wanted to say something, but I want to say quickly about the nice part. There's a reason for that. The Expressions podcast is about bringing people up, making everybody happy. And we've committed to each other that this isn't going to bring stress into our life. This isn't going to bring turmoil, and it's not going to bring a situation that's going to make us think twice about wanting to do it. So the fact that we are nice or whatever, it's really just we're all passionate and still very excited about this process. And to talk to new people like yourself, Brian, and to learn about comedy isn't something I've ever really considered myself a candidate to get into, because you have to have wit, you have to have a completely different level of confidence, which are things that I've never possessed. So I'm more the guy that sits back in the back of the comedy club and laughs at the really funny people, where you have to have a complete different inner sense of having wit and timing and things like that to even want to get into it. So the fact that you were doing Eddie Murphy routines, A, good taste. Well, good on you, because that's Delirious is like the best ever.
Yeah.
That's my
awesome.
era, right?
Yeah.
But B, to be able to pull it off, you have to have that wit and that confidence. So my question would have been, what came first, the wit, the confidence, or the desire to be a comedian?
I think the wit came first, because I'm in the 99% of ADHD. I'm in the 99th percentile. So for anybody listening, out of 100 of my peers, I have more ADHD than 99 of them. It's a severe level of ADHD, but one of the side effects of ADHD is blurting stuff out, saying inappropriate things. It's a legit side effect. So when I'm in school getting in trouble, it's because I'm making those jokes, and I have such a quick processing speed that when I walk into a room, I'm able to read the room and know how to make the joke, know how deep to go with the joke, know how far to push that line. So the wit came first, but the wit came through this ADHD. I was going to call it a disease. Through this disease that I had. It came through this disease that I'm suffering from. I suffer from ADHD.
Hey, if it made everybody a great comedian, then I'd want to hang out with you more to catch this disease, because if it was that easy. Sorry, Mark. What were you going to say, Mark?
I at this point I can't even remember. It was probably something about not being one to talk with the tattoos. I've got just a couple myself, so. And some of them people say, well, why did you get that? I'm like, why not? I mean, I've got this many. What difference does it make? So,
Yeah.
I've never said it publicly, but I will admit it. The only tattoo I have is R2D2 with an X-wing boner. It's something to see. Let me say, it's something to see.
It depends on where that is.
Where do you have that displayed on your
I'm not
body?
sure I want to know.
I have that displayed on the back of my leg, so just below the knee.
That's such a good spot.
A boner on the
Because
back
it's
of
in
your
a
leg.
spot where people can see it, but it's also in a spot where it's like nobody has to look at you in the face when they see this thing on you. And then it's up to them. It's up to them to get the story.
Yeah, exactly.
You're facing away from them when they see the tattoo. It's up to them to be like, hey, what's up with that X-wing dick on your leg?
So funny enough, actually, a lot of listeners won't know this. We met on the Jericho cruise briefly, and when we met, it was at the Red Cup Jeff and Craig Gass signing that they did. So I was hanging out with Red Cup, and there was a bunch of guys hanging out there. And because I'm wearing shorts, one of the guys happened to notice the tattoo. So before you know it, I've got Red Cup and pretty much that entire group of guys just like, I got to get pictures of this tattoo. Like, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life.
That's fantastic.
I'm the only one in this group that doesn't have a tattoo. I feel a little bit inadequate right now, actually.
I'm sure we could change that before the end of Expressions.
Yeah.
I'm only newly tattooed, so I guess.
Yeah, but
I'm
yours
like-
is pretty epic, though. I mean, you've got a pretty awesome tattoo.
Yeah.
Thank you.
On the topic of tattoos, do you have any other tattoos, Brian, or is it just Laugh? Was that the first and only?
No, I got all right, so 18th birthday, I got my last name on my arm, which is like such a shitty tattoo. Like, I want to cover it up. I got to get a cover up. But I got that, and then I got a Celtic walking maze on my shoulder.
Oh, cool.
Okay, nice.
And I got that because a lot of times when I'm writing or thinking, I'm constantly moving around. And have you guys ever seen the show Oz on HBO?
Oh, yes.
season 4, they put this in the gym, on the floor of the gym.
That's right. Yep, I remember that.
And I remember watching that, and McManus, the guy, the character on the show, he's walking the thing. I'm like, I do that. I do what McManus does. And that's when I decided to get the tattoo. It reminds me to meditate and walk.
That's actually really important. Around the corner from my house, there's a really nice park. And in the park, there's a labyrinth, and it talks about like the history of labyrinths, like where you go in, you walk into the labyrinth. It's just red stone is the outline of what the wall should be, and the white stone is like the walking path.
But is it like a real labyrinth, like walls on the side of you?
No,
David Bowie
no.
with his
So
crotch?
no, it's flat ground, but the red brick is like where you're supposed to. Like technically the walls, and the white brick is like the path that you're supposed to walk. And the idea with a labyrinth is you walk in and you get to the center of the labyrinth, and then the exit is the same way you entered, so you have to go through the whole thing again. And I like to go there sometimes when I'm stressed out or wanting to decompress or whatever it may be. So sometimes these little things, these little tricks, like, your Celtic maze or a labyrinth or whatever it may be, can help you get into a creative process or help you to, decompress from stress. And that makes a big difference. I walked it today.
Do you get mad when people jump over the side and don't follow the path?
I see regularly kids in that thing. They're just riding their bikes all over the lines, and
I would hate those kids. I would hate
those kids.
I would hate them.
What's even worse is that there's people that have done graffiti on it, like splash paint, and like wrote like profanity and stuff on it, and that's disrespectful. The kids, I guess
I get the kids. That's just annoying. But yeah, if somebody graffiti. You know what? I think the graffiti would bother me less. Because you're not graffitiing while I'm there.
That's true.
Like I can still
out of sight, out of mind kind of deal.
Yeah, it's like, all right, so somebody drew a dick on the maze, whatever. But if I'm like mad and I go to this maze to do this specific thing to release this stress that I have, and you got these hooligans running around, oh God.
I felt
want
that.
those kids to
I've
roll an
definitely
ankle,
felt that.
every
before.
one of them. I'd yell at them. I'd say, I hope you roll an ankle.
When you said, sorry, Ryan, when you said hooligans, it reminded me of an SCTV skit. Did you ever watch SCTV?
No.
A comedian?
That's a comedian show, though.
That's a comedian show, I will admit, yeah.
It's a Canadian show, but John Candy, Eugene Levy, like all of those guys, they were just...
No.
All the guys from Ghostbuster basically were they started SCTV. Do yourself
way to go, Brian. You've offended the Canadians.
Sorry. My job here is done.
SCTV. My job is done.
That's all the time we have for this evening.
Go fuck yourselves.
The cool thing about that show, though, is it's a cast of characters that basically, I think it was the second season, they were locked away in this big, huge warehouse way up in the middle of, I think, northern BC or something, in the middle of nowhere, Saskatchewan, or somewhere out in the prairies. And there was nobody around them. And they basically they had drugs, they had alcohol, and they had creative people. And they sat there and they punched out these episodes that you watch today. And you're like, how did they get away with this stuff? And just ridiculous stuff that inspired comedian after comedian after comedian. So the question is, sure, we all loved Eddie Murphy, but what was your original influence other than Eddie Murphy that made, like Richard Pryor? You said Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy. I mean, absolutely. They influenced
Bobby Collins.
Bobby Collins. Nice.
Bobby Collins.
Nice.
He's just this old school Italian guy. But when you're a kid and he's doing his set and he's doing the voice of his dog and he talks about his doctor as like a reoccurring person in his set. And most of his punchlines is a reaction. Like a lot of times a comedian will tell you jokes. A comedian will say X, Y, and Z, and then ABC is the punchline. Bobby Collins would just say something, and the way that he said it, the way that he delivered it, the face that he made, the reactions that he had, that's what sold the joke. So I really liked watching Bobby Collins when I was young, especially because I could relate to it, you know? A lot of comics you can't. Like I can't relate to having a wife or a toilet seat being up. I was a kid, but I can relate to a guy talking to his dog.
Yeah.
You know,
Love it.
yeah, and it's funny. I got to open up for Bobby Collins, and I bombed. His people do not like Brian Beaudoin. The people that like Bobby Collins do not like me, and we found that out the hard way. Everybody.
Oh no!
Oh, it was great. It was
great.
You got me on the edge of my seat here. You're great at building suspense. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, it was really great. It was
That
awesome.
was one thing I wanted to ask about, because I've been to comedy shows for like people's birthday before. And there are some nights where it's really good and it hits the audience perfectly and everybody's laughing, everybody's reacting. And then there's other nights where it just doesn't work out. The comedy, the comedian versus the audience, it just doesn't match up. So how do you kind of read the people, read the situation, and maybe tailor to a set or whatever it may be? Or when you have a bad experience like this one.
Well, the Bobby Collins thing was clearly like it was clearly a an audience thing. And it's not that they were a bad crowd, and it's not that I'm a bad comedian. It's just that his people don't want to hear a bunch of pot and fart jokes. They don't want to do it. They're older. They're in their late 50s, early 60s. They just want to come out and laugh at Bobby Collins. So when you got somebody 30 years younger than you going up doing whatever it is I was talking about, it just doesn't mesh, you know? And the reason why I said it was awesome is because at one point I'm up there and I'm just like, if this isn't going to work, and I just fed into it, and I laid there and I just enjoyed bombing, because I've told these jokes 100 times, and I've told them 100 times at the club that I was at. It was just a mishmash. But yeah, reading the crowd is like I said, like that's the one thing I was really good at. Like I'm tailor-made to take in that information and adjust, you know? I did a show Thursday, and I came out at a certain level, and then I had to come down to kind of match the audience level. And then I realized, all right, these are people that don't come out to a lot of comedy shows. So I had to change my set from what I would normally do to kind of cater to them, to now I'm like literally holding their hand and taking them through a comedy show, saying like, all right, I'm going to bring up comedians. You guys have to laugh. It's going to work out. But a lot of comics don't have that ability, and a lot of guys will force the jokes in, and that's when you get to see a real heavy, awesome, like just a beautiful bomb. When you see that, when you see just a beautiful, there's something about a comedian bombing. Other comedians absolutely love it. It's a great thing to watch. It's a great thing to watch.
So I just wanted to really quick talking about the fan interaction there. How is your experience been with hecklers? How do you deal with hecklers? Because I know that's one of the things that I notice a lot in stand-up is the amount of heckling that goes on. I love to go to stand-up clubs, and I just see nonstop from beginning to end. Not beginning to end, but for a majority of the show, there's always one or two people that have had a couple too many and want to get involved, want to try to beak off. So what's your experience like that been like, and how do you deal with it?
Well, early when I came back in 2007, I got this gig at the Comedy Connection, Rhode Island, and it was called the Hardcore Show. And the owner at the time was a coked out alcoholic who papered the room, which means he gave away tickets to everybody, and then told the bouncers to let the crowd heckle the comics, and it's going to be a no holds barred show. So I was fortunate enough to kind of deal with hecklers right up front. You don't see a lot of mean hecklers anymore. You know, nobody comes out to a comedy show and deliberately tries to be mean. If they are, those are easy to shut down. The happy hecklers are the tough ones. Those are the ones where it's like they came out, they had a few, and they wanna help the comedian. They want to help you. You know, they want to give you stuff. Those are a pain in the ass to deal with, but it's rolling with it, right? You got to roll with it. Advice that I tell young comics is use the I'm rubber, you're glue strategy. So it's like, no matter what somebody says to me, I'm going to own it. No matter what. I'm going to own it. I'm going to own it. And then I'm going to throw it back at you. and we're going to play ping pong, and you're going to lose because I've done this for years, you know?
Nice, yeah. I think it goes right back to, like Brian said, that confidence. You have to have that confidence in comedy. And again, with dealing with these hecklers, like you said, you're going to play ping pong and you're going to win because you just know.
If you go to my YouTube page, I don't have a lot of clips. I might have 20 clips up. Like 18 of them are just heckler clips.
Yeah.
Like just crowd work and heckling.
Yeah, everyone hates a heckler, but we love to see the comedian that's on stage take that heckler down. That's
that's one of my favorite things is watching comedians take down hecklers. I love it personally.
It's great. I'll give you guys a peek behind the curtain. I'll tell you what I do. And a lot of comedians do this, but they won't admit it. If somebody's like talking, somebody's being obnoxious, I don't want to say heckling, but just being obnoxious. You know, they might yell out every once in a while. I ignore it, right? I don't say anything, right? I know it's happening. I just let it happen, right? And the people at their table are going to start to get upset. And then the longer you let it go, the tables all around them are going to be upset. And then the longer you let that go, the tables around those people. So it's like you create this like ground zero area for when you slam that heckle, and then I just come back and I'll just be like, you really need to shut the fuck up right now. And then that's when everybody just erupts and they think I'm the hero. And it's like, I really didn't do anything. I'm really just a mastermind that just I'm a villain. I'm a mastermind villain that let you people get upset so I can be your hero. Nice. That's Loki. That's like Loki stuff right there, right?
Wow, that is that's dark. That you took us into a dark place there.
I like it.
I'm very jealous. And the reason for that is because, again, having that wit and that ability to read and to be able to fight back is one thing. But Aurora and I, and actually all of us, we all work retail. We can tell you that in our world, we get the same kind of people coming in who either are thinking they're funny or are just rude or are only thinking about themselves. And especially during a pandemic time, there's a lot of rudeness that goes on. And in retail, we just have to suck it up. You can't say what you're thinking. And even if what you're thinking is clever and witty and you can get it out, you can't do that because then you have to write a letter and apologize to them. And you have to, eat crow and been there, done that. Trust me.
I would love to play ping pong with those that think they're helping me at my job. Let me tell you. I would love to have that back and forth with the ones who say, here's how you do this.
Yeah, but to be able to have that wit and to be able to even if you were to work retail, I'm sure that you would be able to think of the right way to say something to still get your point across where you won't have to write that letter, which is the real catch.
I've been told this and it's kind of weird. Like, I guess I have this look, right? I have this look like I'm just a big lovable guy, right? At first glance, I'm just I look like Hurley from Lost, right? Like, so I have this look, and with that, I'm able to say horrific things to people, and to have them take it as a compliment, Like even I remember we were golfing one time and this guy was wearing these weird pants behind us. Like they were really black, shiny. They were like tuxedo pants. They were really weird pants. And he kind of hit a ball near us and he came up to our group and he's like, he goes, "Hey guys, sorry I hit the ball near." I gotta tell you what, ridiculous pants like that, you can hit the ball wherever you want, buddy. And literally his foursome erupted, my foursome erupted. And it wasn't horrific what I said to him, but just the fact that you never talk to this guy and that's the first thing I say and everybody's on board with it. It's a good superpower to have, I guess.
There you go.
Yeah.
I think it's also the delivery too that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
For sure.
I was gonna say, do you have any examples of where your wit has backfired, where you made a comment like that and everybody wasn't so susceptible to receive it?
Yeah, I got hit by a stripper once during a show because I said she was a hooker, and she wasn't thrilled at that.
That would happen.
Yeah,
that's real witty. I'll give you that one.
I said, it was like,
Let me think. What do I say to this one?
What do I say to this
hooker?
One? You're a hooker.
What not to do?
It was one of those things where I said something like, you're done working. I'm like, you can give your mouth a rest for once, something like that. And she came up to the stage, she hit me and she goes, I'm a dancer, not a hooker. And I'm like, oh, all right. Sorry about that. Sorry. I mixed up the profession. But yeah, no, I mean, there's been times at shows where I've said something that's backfired. Usually in social situations, they don't, because if I'm going to say something in social, like outside of the stage, I'm going to be real confident in what I say, because I'm not a very sociable person, which is weird because I'm a comic. But yeah,
it's not weird at all. I totally get it.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks that, again, because I work retail and because I might do a podcast or I've done a TV show or all these different things, they think that how could I be an introvert? But when I'm out in public and you see me, I dip, I don't want to interact. I don't want to be a part of that. I'm just I'm me. I'm just doing me. And I'm not in people's lives or anything like that. It's just, I get it. I mean, you have this personality that you can put out there, and that's what you're projecting. But for yourself, you have to protect that. You keep that.
Yeah. That's why, I loved 2020. I thought it was great. It sucked I couldn't do shows, but I get to stay in. I don't have to go out. I'm not expected to interact with people. I'm loving it, and the fact that it was socially acceptable to do that was great for me. It was really.
We're always looking for excuses. Otherwise, now there's.
Well, that's the thing. I don't look. See, I don't look for excuses. I've learned, especially over this year, that I'm not. I don't want to look for excuses, because I think that's worse. I think it's worse when you talk to somebody and you're like, oh, we should get together. And they go, I'll check my schedule. It's like, you're not going to check your schedule. You don't even want to hang out with the person. You don't want them to check your schedule. You're just saying it because it goes through the motions of hanging out. You
caught me.
Yeah, check the schedule. See when we can do it. Oh, I'm pretty busy.
I got my schedule right here.
Yeah. Oh man, let's see. It's like you got your schedule right on your phone. Everybody has a schedule on them. Do it now. Put your money where your mouth is. Make plans.
Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely. I'll get for sure. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, we'll be in touch.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's like, why do people do that? Because that's the social, right? Those are the social cues. Those are the social things you're supposed to do. I flat out told people I didn't want to hang out with them because I didn't want to. And at first, they are super kind of taken back and in a way offended. But then if I'm allowed to explain it, people understand. Somebody wanted me to go over their house for a campfire. First it was dinner. It was can you oh, do you want to come over? My wife's going to make dinner. I'm like, no, I'm not a big dinner guy like that. And he's like, why not? And I go, because then I'll feel like I have to give you guys dinner, and it'll weigh on me if I don't give you guys dinner. And it's just a social thing I don't want to deal with. And then he's like, well, we're going to have friends over for a fire. Do you want to do that? And I'm like, I would rather have dinner, because now we're at a social setting with a bunch of people that I don't know in this thing where I can't escape. Oh, that's torture. That is God.
Do you find, because of what you do, and I know that for sure Brian and Aurora have probably encountered this, because I know I have, where they'll invite you to a party or a get together because they know you're going to sort of be a highlight for people, because they know you've got the wit. I know with Brian and Aurora and I, we're photographers, so often they'll invite us to a party because you'll show up and they'll go, oh, did you bring your camera? I'm like, no, I got something. Yeah, but hey, you always take such great pictures, and you start thinking, did you invite me for the pictures? So do you find that for yourself as well, that people invite you just because they think you're going to be that highlight for other guests?
Oh yeah, 100%. Between parties like that, there's situations. Yeah, that's huge. My last relationship that I had, I like the girl that I dated. I really firmly believe she just liked the idea of dating a comedian because I was fun and she's seen me on stage, and that's how she knew me, right? She came to a show, she saw me. Next thing you know, we're talking, and so it's not only just parties and social situations like that. It's literally just, are you hanging out with me because I'm a comedian, or do you like me as a person?
Not even just hanging out, but that to me, that's a messy situation where you've got, you're trying to be emotionally involved with somebody and you have to question whether or not they're actually attached to you or if they're attached to what you do.
Yeah.
Which I've never had to deal with that personally. I can't imagine that sort of struggle.
Matter of fact, there's a song, there's a Fish song called Birds of a Feather. And that's literally what the song is about. Like, it's just about like, are these people, do they really want to hang out with you? And then sometimes you get sucked in. So now it's like I've been sucked into times where it's like, wait, like I've been hanging out with these people for like a month and a half. Where did they come from? How did I get here? And it's like, these aren't my people, and the next thing you know, little by little, it's just a falling out, and it's not anybody's fault. It's not like a bad thing. It just happens. But, do you guys find that where you go through like different social circles?
Oh, 100%. I think that's just what happens in life. I think we all, like you said, we change. We all change as people throughout the course of our lives. I think if you don't change, there's an issue. Unless you're perfect at the beginning. If you start out perfect, then kudos, good on you. Yeah. But I think most of us obviously go through changes in our lives that force us to go into different social circles.
Hey, even Mr. Perfect changed. So,
there you go.
You could have been born perfect, but even Mr. Perfect changed.
Even this social circle, I feel like we've grown as a podcast and as a group of friends. We didn't really, like Mark and Aurora, I didn't even know before this podcast. Brian and I have known each other for about a year, and even then, we talked a few times. We didn't keep up regularly in any way. Yeah, we'd see each other at wrestling events, and that'd be about it. So over the last month now, I've grown really close with these guys, and I feel I can include them in my social circle. So yeah, it's definitely an ever-changing thing. I think that's always going to be the case.
Yeah.
Aurora, I saw you had a question earlier. Did you still?
I thought it was a pretty good point that was brought up earlier about saying no in a social situation. I feel like there's absolutely no reason to feel bad about saying no. If it's for you, if it's for your mental health. I went through like this journey about a year and a half ago where I was saying yes to way too much. Like way too much. It was impacting me. I was having panic attacks. I was having, overwhelming amount of stress. And it was because I was saying yes to too many things. And there's absolutely nothing, for anybody who's listening, there's absolutely nothing wrong with saying no because you need it. Right. Sometimes
I think the people that understand you are going to understand when you say no.
Exactly. The friends that you have in your life, if you explain it to them and if they understand, then they're, the friends that you want to keep in your pocket. The friends that are going to support you through that. And I'm lucky to have some great friends who understand that. Yeah.
I'm lucky to have great friends that I don't want to hang out with.
They totally understand. I don't want to be near them.
I love my friends because they know I hate them.
I like Brian said too, though. Like Brian said, it's when you're given that opportunity to explain why you're saying no. It's one thing to be like, no, I don't want to hang out. But then if you have that chance to say, this is why, I don't do well in these situations. I don't want to be involved in this right now. That makes a world of difference. So for those listening, if you receive those messages, don't be quick to blow somebody off. Don't be quick to think it's an offensive thing directed at you. A lot of the times it comes back on that individual.
Yeah. I mean, they could just lie to your face and you'd never know because you're going to check your schedule.
Well, and that's another good point too, is even if somebody just says no, they don't need to give you a reason. Like if you've asked somebody for help and they say, I'm sorry, I can't help you, they're under no obligation to give you any sort of an excuse or a reason why. And then sometimes if somebody says, oh, well, I'm sorry, I don't have time, it doesn't necessarily mean that their schedule is chock-a-block, that they literally don't have another minute in a day. It's that they don't have any more time that they're willing to part with, because, it's no different than when you go to work. You don't really get paid in money. You get paid to be able to, you pay with bits of your time that you give your employer or whoever it is helping out. So, don't be afraid to say, no, I'm sorry, I don't have time, because you have no more time to give, because the rest is mine, right? Or my family's, right? So
that's a really good point. And that was actually something I was going to bring up on my podcast, just how like my whole life is set on time, right? If I'm doing comedy, it's time. You work, it's time. Everything is time. Like time is money to me. And yeah, you're right. It's okay to just say, I don't want to give you 2 hours on a Sunday afternoon because I just want to sit home and play video games today and shut my brain off for a little bit. Yeah.
Which is
That's
what
a really
you
good
need.
point.
And you don't have to explain that that's what you need. That's a really good point. In fact, it's really hard to have the self-awareness to know that that's a possibility because, again, I'm going to use my world for an example. In my world, I have to try and make as much money as I can in as many avenues as I can to cover life, right? And to say no to opportunities or to say no to somebody may lose me a future opportunity, which could potentially pay a lot of money. Like, for example, this McMichael Art Gallery job that I'm working this week, I had to say no to it because they wanted me to go work there at their facility originally. And I was like, sorry, can't do it. But I was really scared that would compromise my potential to do it next year or the year after because why would they bring me back? I just happened to get lucky because they eventually decided that they would all go virtual. So I was able to step back in and do it. But saying no to opportunities is something that I can't really do. I don't have that luxury. So if I had known that I could give myself the permission, and this is a big thing that I always say, is you have to give yourself permission to do things sometimes. And to give yourself permission to say no is what I would have to hear. Brian, you can give yourself permission to say no to this for whatever reason you have, or no reason at all. And the conversation we just had, again, I've gotten so much better in my personal life since we've started doing this podcast because of these little nuggets that I'm learning from every single person we talk to. I'm taking away something from every conversation, and this conversation is no different. And I appreciate it because, that saying no thing, that's valuable. That's very valuable.
Well, and as somebody who's full of still full of piss and vinegar, hearing these stories and hearing all these different interactions each and every week, it's huge for me as well because it gives me a chance to, as somebody who has, I wouldn't say minimal life experiences, but obviously, I haven't, I'm not understanding of as much, right? I don't know as many. I couldn't give you guys life advice. I'm not going to be the one to sit here and be like, well, guys, in my experience, this is what you should be doing. So
back when I was a boy, let me tell you, I used to walk to work.
But yeah, so having these conversations for that reason, again, it allows me to hear these different points of view and just kind of think differently about my own life and the way that I think. It allows me to clearly sort of see my own faults, which is, it's huge for me. I really appreciate that.
That's cool.
While we're kind of winding down here, one thing I did want to touch on as well, Brian, you had mentioned that somebody who suffers from the disease known as ADHD.
I suffer from ADHD.
How? Because I know there's a lot of people.
Deficit hyperactivity disorder.
I know there's a lot of people going through different forms of mental health disorders, right? Whether it be ADHD, whether it be insomnia, whether it be whatever it is that you are suffering from, you have found a way to incorporate that into your career and actually use it as a tool to better yourself. How do you think that came naturally, or is there advice you have for people that are in a similar situation to encourage them to utilize their disease, quote unquote, in a more positive manner?
Embrace the disease is what I say. No, yeah. No, but seriously, embrace it. It's who I am. Does that make sense? It's who I am. That is who I am. With ADHD.
Yeah, but you know it. Yeah. And this. So see, I'm dyslexic, and I'm a bit all over the place, right? So I've got my own things going on, but it wasn't until I realized those things that I understood that I could, again, give myself permission to just understand this is what I'm going through. I have to learn differently. I have to react differently. But until you know those things, you're just somebody who's all over the place, and you don't even know you're all over the place. So the fact that you're at the point where you can say it's who I am and you embrace it, I mean, that's a lot further than a lot of people have gotten.
Yeah, I think, well, I was diagnosed when I was in my early 30s. I'm 38 now. So I've only known that I've had ADHD for, 8 years at the most. So I lived my whole life not knowing what was going on, like not knowing why I would just have mood swings. Like, why would I just have a mood swing? Why do I... and like yelling stuff out in class. I didn't know that was a symptom, and I didn't know it was a symptom until I was at the office getting evaluated for ADHD. And the doctor's like, "Have you ever yelled things out in class?" And I'm like, "That's what I do, baby. That's who I am.
That's my gimmick."
Of course Daddy yells out in class. What am I supposed to do?" Right? And and then like you find out all these little things, and it was like I went to this psychologist looking for answers, and he didn't just pull back the curtain. He just ripped that shit down. And from there, it's like, all right, wow, I have this whole world that I didn't know existed. Oh, that's why I do that thing. That's why I have this mood swing. That's why I react this way. That's why when somebody says something and I'm on stage, I know how to come back like that. It's all these things that are under this ADHD umbrella. And so since then, it's been like a journey of trying to figure myself out, right? And I'm learning stuff every day. I mean not every day, but I just recently found out I have dysthymia. Have you guys ever heard of dysthymia?
No.
I suffer from dysthymia.
Hi, Brian.
Chronic form of depression may cause you to lose interest in life, feel hopeless, and lack productivity, and have low something. It doesn't continue, but I would assume that's low self-esteem or something.
Yeah, that's dysthymia in a nutshell. So basically, in layman terms, everybody wakes up and they're kind of like right here in terms of like you're not happy, you're not sad, you're just right in the middle, and then your day kind of moves on from there. My day starts out below that bar. So it's like I have to force myself to be happy so that I can feel normal, and then elevate that to happiness or whatever. And so, but learning that, it's like I've learned that that's how my brain starts out the day. That's how my brain works, and the ADHD triggers that. So because something will set me off in a negative way because of the ADHD, and I'll react to it, the dysthymia grabs it and holds on to it, and it's like, all right, now we're going to dwell on this for the next week, and this is what your life is going to be for the next week. And it can be over something so simple or so dumb, or it can be something really complex that should make you sad. But there's really no telling what could set it off. But again, it's just learning yourself and figuring out, all right, I have this thing. I'm going to own it because that's who I am. And then I'm going to learn, and that's what's going to make me better. So just by knowing that, all right, if I wake up in the middle of the night, if I'm dwelling on negative stuff, I'm going to start the day even lower than I normally do. All right, so now I'm going to listen to guided meditation before I go to bed, right? So now before I go to bed, instead of listening to like white noise or something to put me to sleep, I just put on this guided meditation and I listen to this guy take me through a journey down the forest about building self-esteem. And I think it's like subconsciously like working, like it's like that episode of Saved by the Bell. Remember when that episode, do you guys have Saved by the Bell in Canada?
Yeah.
You guys have bells in Canada?
Right. There's a couple. It's too cold most of the year for them to ring.
Well, one of them was rung by Zach Morris. But it's like that episode of Saved by the Bell where he put the secret message in the commercial and all the girls want to date him. So I feel like if I can end the day with that and I go to sleep with like an extra 45 minutes of somebody chirping in my ear about positivity and I wake up happy the next day, I'll do it, right? And that's just one thing I have to do to help myself out.
At least you're doing it.
That's perfect.
And I would rather do that because the opposite of that is, I've gone through real long, like severe depressive bouts. Do you guys call them bouts or spouts? I never know what it is. Is it a spout?
Depends on the day.
I just call it a funk. I call it a blue funk.
Right,
and I do meditations as well, and I find that they help me immensely. I don't normally do them to go to sleep. I do them, midday or whatever. But I'll do a meditation, and it can help pull me right out.
Yeah, and it's just it's just owning what you have and trying to help yourself out the most.
Yeah.
So as we kind of start winding. Oh,
sorry, Aurora had something to say.
Oh, I'm just one thing that was really interesting to me is that you went to a psychiatrist, you went to a professional to help you give these tools that can help you with life in general, help you get through this, tough time or whatever it may be. I've done the same thing. I've gone to therapists. I just want the people to know who are listening, if they're ever struggling with anything, it is a good idea to seek out professional help. I have basically seeked out professional help before, and I've used the free resources, not even one that I've had to pay. And it's really, really helped me. Like one of the things Mark was saying earlier about, your time to decompress is actually you spending a chunk of your mental energy, your mental health. That is something actually a therapist had talked to me about. And, meditation, things like that, like that'll help you through the tough moments in your life. I've used meditation before. And it can definitely really help, reading audiobooks through it. It really, having these coping mechanisms, having these tools can really help you either out of a creative dip in your life, or, if you're suffering from any sort of mental health, or even just now with COVID being cooped up inside all this time, there's so many more people struggling with this because they're not seeing people, they're not talking. So having these little kind of coping mechanisms can really, really help in the long run. So,
yeah. And if that doesn't work, do drugs.
Right, no.
Lots of drugs.
we can edit this in post, I think, right?
So this is a great time to talk about our charities. I support addiction recovery and
lame.
So in close, I want to do a quick roundtable. I'm sure everybody's got a couple more questions for you, Brian. My last question for you, on top of your meditation and all these different coping mechanisms that you've not come in contact with. Look, I've got COVID on the brain now. All these different coping mechanisms that you've found. Do you find you're at a place now where you're not necessarily looking for different coping mechanisms? Are you quite happy with what you've got and the way that you're able to get through your day to day? Or obviously with the dysthymia, I'm sure it still makes it a bit of a pain in the ass from time to time. But
yeah, I mean, look, I'm always down to get new things that are going to help me out. The one big hurdle, the one thing that I haven't done that I should do, that I will always put this off, is to actually take medication for it. That's the one thing where I'm like, nah, I'm not going to do that. I'll listen to meditation. I have a counselor, Rob. He's been my counselor for 9 years now since I got diagnosed. Yeah, since I got diagnosed. So yeah, he's been with me forever. And he, for years, he's like, why don't you just try medication? That's like the one thing I haven't done, but I'm always down to try something. And sometimes I'll just flat out tell you no. I was down one day and I was talking to my friend Katie, the co-host on my podcast, and she's like, just take a walk. And I'm like, no, you go take a walk. Let me know. Like, I was mad. I'm like, I'm not taking a stupid walk. But yeah, man, I'm always down to try new things. I'm always down to help myself out, right? It's just it's easier said than done, I guess.
Yeah.
Is what I should have just said 2 minutes ago.
No, that makes the most sense of it. That's again why we do this show, though, is to have people kind of see those interactions, see that you getting that light bulb of, oh yeah, at the end of the day, like it doesn't matter. At certain points, I'm going to freak out, and as much as I want to be open-minded about it, sometimes you can't be. At the end of the day, you're not always going to be open-minded as much as you want to be. I can admit and be like, I'm always going to be open-minded about everything, but I'm not. I'll be the first to admit that there'll be times where I go, no, I don't want to do this. I don't care to try.
You'll be open-minded about things you want to be open-minded about.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Yep.
And I'm a comedian, so I break things down in a negative way all the time. That's ultimately what a joke is. You're making fun of something. Mm-hmm. So telling me to go for a walk is like lighting a fuse on a bomb and just waiting for it to go off. If anybody wants to hear some good mental, just top-notch breakdowns, the Wicked Funny podcast has a couple episodes where I just lose my mind on the episode. A lot of them are like Brian yells at Frank, Brian loses his mind, Brian flips out again.
I love anything where Brian does edibles. Just tossing that out there. Those are the ones I generally tune into.
All right, yeah, okay, good. It's a big month, man. We're recording the big 420 episode tomorrow, and I'm gonna have a whole bunch of edibles, and I'm not gonna tell my podcast co-hosts about it. I'm just gonna do it and see if they catch on.
I just want to tell my mother who's watching, the Brian we're talking about right now is not me.
Yeah, don't check the mail, Brian.
And for those of you guys that are listening, you can check out the Wicked Funny podcast. In our description, we've got a link that'll lead you right to that podcast. Go and check it out. It is wicked funny.
We might get sued, so go check it out.
I saw that today. I know you can't talk about it, but I'm really curious.
I'll talk about it. I'll talk about it. If you so that we had a guest on a couple weeks ago, Tyler, and Tyler's a local comedian around here, and he has a cool story. He has a walker, and and he has a great story. He's crippled.
He has a disease.
I was waiting for more, but if that's
he
all
has
it is,
a disease, but it's not ADHD. It's not his ADHD. Is not as bad as mine. So anyway, while he was on, he was telling a story about the underground world of the crippled community and how they have like rivalries against each other, which is great. And he started talking about this guy Gus that is his rival. It's his nemesis. And the guy Gus heard the episode, got a hold of us, and he's like, I want to come on the podcast. And we're like, no. like you don't, like, we didn't say your name. You don't want to come on because you did things that are really questionable, that you really shouldn't want to answer questions about this thing. And if anyone wants to hear it, it's on the Tyler episode of the podcast. And it's really funny, but I'm kind of hoping I get sued.
I think we lost Brian there.
Oh, no.
The lawyers were listening and they cut him off.
I know. Edited by the man already.
It was probably his agent decided that he didn't want to be sued, and that's it.
Yeah. So while we try to figure out if Brian's coming back, I'm sure he will. It's just going to take a second to catch back up here. Do you guys have any final questions for Brian?
I do, but I'd like him to be here listening to it to ask it.
Perfect. Yeah. No, I want to get an idea before he comes back. I'm like, okay, who do we have any final questions? Are we going into oh yeah, so he just said, sorry, my internet went out. Be right back. I'm sorry. Oh, right, no worries, Brian. No worries.
Okay. Life, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what happens when you
talk about being sued.
Just to finish off, yeah, that's how they put the caramel in the cases.
Yeah, your lawyer must be on the other side somewhere here. He just knew.
Somebody unplugged it. Done.
So anyway, Gus is trying to sue us.
Gus.
I do love though the argument of you don't want to come on and tell these stories. I don't understand why you're messaging me saying you want to defend yourself in these questionable acts.
Because the thing that really set him off, he did this really creepy thing that involves somebody else's wife, and we talk about it on our Patreon episode, which is behind a paywall. So really, at the most, 30 people right now are hearing it. It's probably going to go up after tomorrow's episode comes out and we actually talk about it. But so we're trying to tell him, like, look, you can come on, but you're not going to come on as Gus. You're going to come on as your real name. You just said you were running for politics and you're going to answer questions about this thing that you allegedly did. Like, you don't want to do it. Like, you don't. As your lawyer, you do not want to do that.
Jeez, that's wild. That is absolutely wild.
It's pretty great.
It's weird that you kind of alluded to, doing something to another person's wife or whatever. But currently, what's airing right now is our episode 1, where we talked about that kind of a thing going on in the wrestling industry, about somebody who was going behind other wrestlers' backs and sleeping with their wives and doing inappropriate things, and that's literally what's airing tonight on live. So
cheap plug.
yeah, right, exactly. A cheap plug for the past. Right now, we're Back to the Futuring right now, but yeah, it's prevalent. It's everywhere. People are doing douchebag things and getting caught because social media will get them caught. And it's good that people are standing up and talking about it and, calling people out for doing the douchebaggery, because that is just not the way life should be.
And I love it. I love it. We have a whole segment on my podcast called Creepy Corner, where we have women send creepy messages that guys send them.
Oh,
and
no.
me and my co-host Katie read them like a script.
Oh, beautiful.
It's absolutely hilarious. Like, it starts out with like, did you have a good Christmas? Yeah, good Christmas. Did you get presents? Yeah, you got presents. Hey, why don't you let me see them titties? And it's like, whoa, like,
well, that
you just talk about
quickly.
Christmas. Yeah. And sometimes it's like way more graphic than that. Like, it's like the stuff that guys send women is just completely insane now. Like, it's insanity. And
it boggles my mind. I'm afraid to know what you've seen. I'm afraid to know what you've read and seen in some of these chats.
Oh, it's amazing. We had a whole contest, a month-long contest, where every episode we read 2 or 3 different messages from people. It's insane. And the thing is, like, it's like, have I sent messages that are arguably creepy? Sure, but I know the people before I do it. We have a relationship. I'm talking like, you don't know this person. Here comes a dick pic flying in hot,
I'm
well,
shocked
the other
that
side of
happens.
it too. The other side of it though too is, like you had said, you would know the person, and I've had this conversation myself. I've thought, have I sent creepy messages in the past? Possibly, but A, it's people I know, and B, the second there's any sort of I'm not interested, it's okay, I'm gonna I'll message this creepy thing to somebody else then.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull it out of the range.
Yeah, I don't understand this persistence. It's this persistence that I see in these messages where I'm like, you guys really don't know when to take no. And then when they do, it's really funny because they'll be so persistent and then finally get the hint and go, okay, I'm done, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
like at the end, it's always just.
Sometimes they really, really don't, and it's really amazing to see. But what really sucks about it is that now, because I'm already bad at reading a social situation, so now I know what these women deal with on an almost daily basis. So now for me, when it comes to like dating and stuff, now I'm like super like cautious about like, do I call this a date when I ask you if you want to hang out? Like I break that down, and it's like I question if I'm being creepy or not. And more often than not, I'm not, but it's
more often than not,
I'm not. But if I am, I probably know them, but
you own it. So it's okay.
I own it,
Well, it's that self-awareness. Again, you have to be aware. Like when I've said, and like Brian said, we've sent quote-unquote creepy messages that we weren't aware they were creepy at the time. We look back and go, oh, that's a bit cringy. I wouldn't say that nowadays. But again, we've had that self-awareness to go, oh, they're not interested, or yeah, that was really dumb. I'm never saying that again. Didn't work. So you need to have that self-awareness.
Here's a good rule that I have. If they can screenshot it and send it to my mom, would I be okay with my mom reading that?
There you go.
Because I love my mom. I love my mom, and I don't want my mom to think of me as this horny, horned up hornball that's on Tinder.
Horny, horned up hornball. I love it. That should be a t-shirt. That should be a t-shirt. You keep it.
Here's what's happening. You guys are so nice and you're so clean that I don't want to say what I want to say. So instead I say horned up hornball being horny because I don't want to go off on whatever I was going to say.
Oh, that's hilarious.
We'll do expressions after dark one of these days. Yeah.
Goddamn Canadians.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, actually, this is going to lead me to my question that I was going to ask you at the end. Now, you mentioned that last Thursday you had a gig. Okay, so here's my thought. Here in Ontario, there has been nothing for a year. Nothing. No gigs, no going to bars, no hanging out with people, nothing. So to hear that you were actually able to perform last Thursday, first tell everybody where you are, because I don't think we've actually said where you live.
I am in.
We don't need to give your address.
Yeah, where's your address and banking information, social insurance number?
136 ADHD Lane.
Catch my disease.
It's my disease. On the corner of psoriasis and cancer.
Psoriasis. Thank you very much.
I got it too, bro.
Oh, dude. There's another issue, right? You have issues like psoriasis, and that's a whole other beat down on your self-esteem and your, oh man, to get up on stage and to have any kind of confidence in yourself. I give you a lot of credit. If you have psoriasis and all these other things, I'm selling cameras to kids and people, and the little kid will look over and say, "What's wrong with your hands? Did you get a burn?" Like, it's so frustrating sometimes. And it really brings you down.
If a kid asks me, I got like a little I got blotches on my leg. I finally took this medication that cleared it up. That was like the one thing that was like super like that I was really self-conscious about, which is weird because I had like breakouts on my legs and I wore shorts on stage. But yeah, like that was the one thing I never really like owned was
hard
psoriasis. Yeah,
it's almost impossible.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, now I have to ask a girl out and then say, I have psoriasis.
Thank God I was married, or at least dating Shelly before it really full bloomed. And thank God she's okay with it, because
she's grandfathered in.
She's grandfathered in. Exactly. 25 years in, she owns it, you know. But
it's just skin. Grow up and back.
He worries less about it than I do, and I thank God for that. But you know, it's definitely something that if I ever had to start over again, God forbid, not going to happen. I wouldn't. I would just stay home. But anyway, back to the question. So you're in Rhode Island.
Yeah, so I'm in Rhode Island.
And how are you still doing stand-up? Like, how is that still going on with the pandemic?
Because people don't give a fuck around here.
That's crazy.
You know what? And Rhode Island's really like one of the stricter states. So in this all and yeah, I had a gig last Thursday. My first live gig was in June. So June of because we haven't had June of this year yet. Not yet. So June of 2020 was like.
Well, we're doing the Back to the Future thing, so you never know.
Yeah.
And you've been doing gigs consistently since then, right? Like for the most part?
I wouldn't say consistently. I can't say consistently.
Apparently.
No, I'd say, I mean, at least one a month. You know, I did have a month where I had a show every weekend. Yeah. I felt like I was doing a tour. It was amazing. But yeah, man, things are running up. And what basically happened here is like all the states kind of had their own COVID rules. So Florida, you can like months ago, you can go to Florida, no mask, no nothing. You know, Alabama, you can go to Alabama, no mask, no nothing. Wherever you know, in Rhode Island, it's like, all right, you got to wear a mask, bars closes at this time. To where you guys in Canada, you guys had like one system where it was like, hey, shut down. Let's get through this, and we'll.
No, it's not nearly as cut and dry as that. It's from the outside looking in, I can see how it would come across like that.
From last March to last June, I would say that was accurate. From June on, we don't have the bars open. We did for a little while. Very, very small groups of people going in. So there has been some progress, but then all of a sudden they change it and it goes back again. Then it comes out. Then it goes back. And it comes out.
The best comparison I can give it is, so when you did your show in June, we were, I think, at the tail end of our first shutdown. We shut down in Ontario, so our province, from March until June or July, I think it was. Yeah. And at that point, they had closed pretty much anything. You can go to your grocery stores. Any other business was closed. It was pretty much a lockdown. We were able to, my wife and I, sneak in a wedding in our backyard legally, because that's what they opened it up to. When they opened up in July and August, they said you could do outdoor ceremonies of 50 to 100 people, I think, something like that. So my wife and I got our wedding in, and then by December, everything was shut down again. And even prior to that, we got our wedding in, and I think a month after that, they pulled back those restrictions tightened those restrictions and said, nope, now it needs to be 20 people in your outdoor wedding, nobody inside. And it's just been constant chaos, and there's never been a definitive answer.
That's what's happening here, but it's happening in 50 different places with 50 different, you can open, you can shut down, you can do this. You can only open if people wipe their ass from the back, and you can only open if everybody wears a mask, and you guys don't have to wear a mask at all. It's just, so literally nobody knows what's going on anywhere.
That is crazy.
Because it's so different.
That's so bad. That's so bad. It doesn't give you any sense of
follow the rules that way.
Yeah, there are no rules, and the rules change so fast.
Yeah.
Well, and it's what causes this divide with people. It's what causes these, I know what's going on, I know what's right and what's wrong. And you see these people fighting over essentially not nothing, but it's fighting over who they think is right. And that to me is ridiculous. That's where I'm like drawing the line on it all.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm at a point now where and this is gonna sound dark. If someone gets the corona that was bragging about how it only infects 0.3% or whatever, I love it when they have it. I love it. I think it's great. And you know what? I want you to suffer for 2 fucking weeks. Because I've had friends that died from it. I want you to fucking feel it. I understand the idea that things need to open up, because for a year I didn't have shows. For a year I had to fight with unemployment because unemployment didn't consider comedy a full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
So I can understand, so when things were opening up, it's like, you know what? What do I do? Do I not take the gig because I might catch coronavirus, or do I finally get paid for the first time in months? Mm-hmm. It was such a, what do you call that? Like a moral, I had a moral dilemma, and then I decided, look, either way, the show's gonna happen. And if they're calling me to do the show, if I don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. So I'm only going to do the shows that I feel comfortable doing. And I'm going to go test the water. So the first show I did was outdoors in a tent, a huge tent. And there was maybe 70 people in this tent that could seat 150. It was great. It was fine. Even now, it's 50% capacity usually where we go. And it's fine. I just try to carry myself through this thing the way that I would want other people to carry it if I was them, I wear my mask when I go inside. I stay away from people, and that's it. I feel like if everybody treated it the way that I treat it, it'd be different. And unfortunately, there are people that feel the exact opposite of that, and they just want to do what they want to do, and that's what's prolonging this.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's I think there's a way to have a life and get through this and deal with it. And then there's just being an asshole and just not caring. And how
dare you take away my rights, Brian? How dare you take away my rights?
Yeah, and I think
it's laughable.
The biggest asshole thing that I've said about this is 4th of July, I'm taking off my mask, right? And that's been my ongoing joke, because I feel like 4th of July is the time when, if you wanted a vaccine, you could have gotten it by 4th of July, right? I've done everything I could,
Maybe in Rhode Island, but
not here.
Oh yeah,
not here.
Yeah, no.
I was going to ask about that. Yeah, what's the vaccination process like down there? Are you guys for the most part vaccinated, or is it difficult to get them?
I think right now again is 100 different places with 100 different reasons to get vaccinated. I have a day job that I usually don't talk about, so that allowed me to get vaccinated a little earlier. I also have diabetes, so it's an underlying condition. So I'm able to get immune from coronavirus because of my what disease are I talking about? Diabetes.
Yeah.
I take insulin. I'm used to getting shots.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So I was able to get it, and that's it. Basically, everybody. I was at a show the other night. The show that I was at this big, huge casino in Connecticut, and the owner of the club, before the show started, came up to me. I was with my buddy Craig Gass, his friend Scott, our friend Scott, and a couple other comics. He comes up, he goes, "Anybody want a vaccine? Anybody want a vaccine?" It was a drug, and I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, they're doing vaccines. They have extra vaccines. People didn't show up. They got to get rid of them. So if anybody wants one, you can get one. That's literally how it is.
real quick, Brian, thank you so much for your final question there. Mark, Aurora, do you guys have any final questions for Brian before we get into the last segment of our show?
No, I just want to say thank you for coming on. It's been great to meet you all the way from Rhode Island. I'm in Thunder Bay, Ontario, so it's been really, really great to meet you.
It's been a good international meeting.
Yeah, really, been a lot of fun, and I'm gonna watch a bunch of your stuff on YouTube after the show finishes recording.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, this was great. I enjoyed this a lot, and I mean that. I'm not just blowing smoke, because if I didn't like it, I'd tell you.
I believe you would.
I would say it. I'd say we could have done better, you guys.
What is wrong with you?
Aurora, any final questions there?
I wanted to say thank you as well. Thank you for coming on. Thanks for being on call, kind of at last minute pickup. So I really appreciate that. And this has been a really fun episode. I've laughed a lot. Yeah.
I enjoyed this.
As it should
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun. And like we had mentioned earlier on the topic of time, the fact that you took the time tonight to put this into your schedule and spend an hour and a half with us really means a lot to us, man. We really appreciate you doing that. So.
Anytime. This was great. This is a good thing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So before we let you go, we do have a couple
diseases. We cured it.
I'm not making that claim. We haven't cured anything. That's all on his own. That's all on his own. I know he's trying to teach me to own up to things. He's been teaching me since the beginning, but
let's not get sued.
We've got 3 more things that we've got to talk about.
Yeah, let's leave lawsuits up to Brian and his podcast there.
Exactly.
Yeah. So a couple more things to talk about. Brian, I'll let you kind of take the floor there.
Sure. Okay. The 3 things we want to talk about. First, we ask all of our guests if they want to issue a challenge to our viewers, something that like a personal challenge, or, we're in photography, so we give a photography challenge. It doesn't have to be anything crazy or they have to do it, but just something that you think would help our viewers improve their day-to-day by doing a challenge that you think you would issue.
This is going to be the Just Say No challenge.
Love it.
It's going to be the if somebody asks you to do something, say no. Don't make up an excuse. Just tell them, no, I can't do it. And then if you want to say, and if you'd like to know why, I'll tell you. And then it's up to them to be like, why? And then it gives you an opportunity to open up and have a conversation with somebody about why you might not want to hang out with them. Or just take time for yourself. Not just, I don't want to say like, why your friend is a piece of shit. You can tell them why they're a piece of shit. No, you can talk to them about why you don't want to do that particular thing. So the Just Say No challenge.
Nice.
Love it.
Did you ever find that you'd be, campaigning for a Just Say No challenge?
I
thought you'd be the poster child to Just Say No.
We're talking about the Nancy Reagan challenge here.
This is the good Just Say No. This is no. You know what happened, and this is what happened on my podcast. I would always say no, and these 2 dopes made me say yes. Katie and Frank, like, you just need to say yes more often, which led me into that relationship that I told you guys about earlier. So it's all their fault. Well, I was brokenhearted and depressed for 2 months after she dumped me.
Oh man!
All you had to do was just say no.
Say no.
If I had said no right up front, I would not be in that predicament.
All right, so there's that. Thank you very much for that. Great challenge. I'm going to take that challenge because I don't say no enough. The second question is, excuse me, what's your jam?
My what?
What's that song that you listen to that just gets you in the right mood?
Jelly.
Grape jelly is the jam.
I like preserves.
Okay, that took me way too long. I'm out of here.
You just got it.
Brian left.
Okay, but seriously, is there a song that just gets you going? That just every time you hear this one song, it just kicks you in the ass and just wants you to get excited or get shit done or just, feel better about life?
Yo, I have a lot of songs for a lot of different things. The one go-to song that I have where it's like I need to listen to a song is Box of Rain by the Grateful Dead. So that would be that. I guess that would be the go-to. That would be the go-to. That's the Brian is sad and I need to cheer myself up song. But I also listen to a lot of Kanye West.
Okay.
Is
I didn't take you for a
really-
Kanye fan. Yeah.
I love me some Kanye West, and I'll tell you why. Because he's despite how crazy he is, right? Like, he's a crazy person. He admits that he's a crazy. Like, you want to talk about a guy that embraces mental illness? Guy has a whole album about being bipolar. He knows who he is. He sings what he sings about in his story. It comes off as like, if you hate Kanye and listen to it, you're like, fuck Kanye. But if you listen to it, it's really, like, for me, it's really empowering. It's really it really lifts me up and it makes me feel confident. That's why I listen to a lot of Kanye West, probably more than anybody would ever imagine.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I've never really given Kanye the time to get into it, so maybe I'll give that a shot.
I would say
I
give
have
it a
recently,
shot.
for the same reason that Brian just said. I have people telling me that they're, because I used to be one of those Kanye haters. I went, yeah, the dude's just a maniac. The guy is completely
Gets
off
up
his
on
rocker.
stage, interrupts Taylor Swift.
Yeah,
all this
like
other stuff.
I never gave him the time of day. And over the last few months, my boss is a huge fan of Kanye West. So he started telling me exactly what Brian had said. He goes, look, if you actually look at the context of his music and see what he's doing, he's an artist. He's a full-blown artist. There's no
really
denying
is.
that. So
I issue the Kanye West challenge.
It's too late. You've already got
It's
the
where
just
you
say no
have to
challenge.
knock up a
It's over.
Kardashian and get a divorce.
challenge accepted.
All right, one more question for you, and then we're going to let you go with your evening. The last question is tools of the trade. Now, tools of the trade could be, again, for a photographer, it could be a good lens that you like to use, or it could be anything you want. It could just be a thought that gets you through the day. Do you have something that you would impart to other people wanting to be a comedian that would just give them a tool that would help them in their everyday life?
Yeah, well, there's no tools a pad and a pen, and record your set and listen to it. This is what I tell all the young comedians when I really don't want to give them good advice. I just say, record your set and listen to it. Bring a pad and a pen and write everything down.
Don't copy Eddie Murphy.
Don't copy everybody.
Copy everything.
No, that's what he tells to the people he's giving good advice to. Yeah.
My serious go-to advice for any comedian and you can take this over into anything really. Be better than the person next to you, right? Comedy is a very ego-driven. It is very cutthroat. It is very it's disheartening at times. Like you get told no so many times, or you'll see somebody else get a gig before you, and it's like, look, the best you can do is just be the best of everybody around you, right? Be better than everybody around you. So show up early, right? That's being better than everybody around you. Record your set, listen back to it, work on your set. Don't get drunk at the club. Be better than everybody around you. Because at the end of the day, like, there are gigs that I've gotten early in my career, and I got them because I was just at the club early for a show, or I reached out to a booker and I was just more professional than another comedian, So just
you're right.
Better
That does apply
around
to
you.
everything. It applies to wrestling. It applies to photography. It applies to everything. So great one. Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Before
Thank you,
we do let you go, Brian, where can people keep up with you? Obviously, you've got your YouTube channel. You've got the Wicked Funny podcast. What do you want to promote? What do you want people seeing on the internet? Because we live in the digital age.
All right, you can go to IllinoisCockburn.com and
Is that a thing?
that is a real thing. IllinoisCockburn.com. It takes you to the Wicked Funny podcast page.
Right on. Okay.
Now the reason, you had
Brian a little nervous there. Brian was like, I don't know what you're sending our listeners
What is
to.
happening here?
Why is he sending us to his OnlyFans? It's my OnlyFans page where I itch my psoriasis in my pajamas.
And the circle's complete. I love it. Oh, shit.
It's psoriasis friendly OnlyFans. It's called IllinoisCockburn.com. So,
I'm God again.
I even got like stickers, right? I got stickers. IllinoisCockburn.com.
Perfect.
Okay, so the Illinois basketball team, the college basketball team this year was going on a run, and they were like my favorite thing to watch was Illinois college basketball because they had this guy named Kofi Cockburn. Right, he's a big 7-foot center. This guy's a monster. He's fun to watch, and the whole team was just fun to watch. So one night I ate an edible and I got really high, and I just bought a website called IllinoisCockburn.com. And I'm like, well, all right, I don't know how to build a website. I don't know what to do, but if I type my web, like the Wicked Funny Podcast, I could ship it. So Illinois Cockburn just brings you to the Wicked Funny Podcast page where you can like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff.
That's art. That there is art.
Yeah,
I just want to toss that out there. The way that story came, I've never heard somebody create a website off of. Yeah, I got high, ate an edible, thought I'm going to use this college basketball player that I'm having a lot of fun watching, and name it IllinoisCockburn.com and turn it into my podcast.
And then I got
art.
And then I got bumper stickers.
And you got bumper stickers.
I got bumper stickers in two colors. I have 2 colors.
That is awesome.
That's dedication.
IllinoisCockburn.com, baby. Or if you don't want to type in cock, you can go to Wicked Funny Podcast.
But it's more fun the other way. So
it's more fun.
Way more fun. Can people buy these stickers anywhere? Real quick, do you guys have a merch shop to buy these stickers, or did you just order them?
Sell them out. You're gonna have to come see me live.
There you go.
Have to cross the border to see me live.
Ooh, we'll get to that eventually.
No, we got a merch.
We're not gonna come.
Yeah,
we got a merch site. It's on IllinoisCockburn.com.
Nice. So check that out, guys. Check out IllinoisCockburn.com. Check out the Wicked Funny Podcast. Wicked Funny Podcast. Brian, thank you so much for being a part of the show. It's been a blast. We haven't laughed like this in a long, long time. Thank you for cheering up our COVID downers, whatever you want to call that. The COVID.
I hope
blues.
you guys are cured of COVID soon, and you're able to go out and do stuff.
You too.
4 years by Mark's count there? 4 years, is that what it is? Yeah.
Something like that, yeah. I'm with you, though. I really don't want to leave the house anyway, so.
There you go. I also want to say a big thank you to all of our co-hosts and a huge, huge thank you to each and every one of you listening. I want to thank you guys for tuning in each and every week. As of now, we have finally caught up. We posted our first episode. We got to interact with all of the comments, so thank you guys for that. We can't wait to see this show grow. We can't wait to grow with each and every one of you. So for myself, Brian Weiss, Aurora Robinson, Mark Flinders, and Brian Beaudoin, we want to say thank you, and we will see you next week right here on the Expressions Podcast.
Ooh, ooh, ooh.